Namaste and welcome viewers to another brand new episode of Mirror Prime. It's me, Ashish Pareek. Being an Indian cricket fan isn't easy. You never get to be happy and relaxed despite a string of great victories, knowing that a blip is just around the corner. And usually the blips are record shattering, and today was one such day. Opting to bat first against under-firing New Zealand team, Team India was bundled out for just 46. It is India's lowest ever score in tests on home soil and the third lowest test total in its near 100-year history. In fact, to be fair, the conditions seem closer to New Zealand than India, but what's baffling is that India still decided to bat first. The ball started swinging, and as always is the case, Indian batters looked like sitting ducks. In fact, there were five of them to be exact. So, what went wrong? Fans are now asking, what's the point of investing so much in world-class infrastructure and overseas tours for our young players when a moving ball is all it takes to break our batting's back year after year? In fact, we'll be discussing this and a lot more. Joining us shortly will be Atul Wassan, who's a former cricketer. But right now, we have Chandresh Narayanan, who's a sports broadcaster and an author joining us right now. Chandresh, I'll begin with you now. What an utter humiliation this is. How does a team with so much experience, virtually unbeatable at home, ranked number one in WTC, get bundled out for just 46 against a team that is ranked 6th and just a few days back looked clueless against Sri Lanka?
Ashish, thanks a lot for having me on your show. Yes, it was a shambolic display by India. And I think that this is a warning sign for India looking ahead, because you've got 5 test matches in Australia and 5 test matches next year in England. So you're looking at 10 test matches where Australia, who are hurting after not being able to beat India the last 2 times India toured Australia, and having not beaten India in a test series, both home and away in the last 10 years. Considering all that, I think this is a very big warning sign. And I think this stems from the fact that the Indian team's head coach a couple of days ago mentioned that we need to look at continuing with this high risk, high reward approach, even in Test cricket, just like they do in T20 cricket. And they did not respect the conditions, I felt. And I think that led to this shambolic batting display. And if you look at it, especially for someone like Sarfaraz Khan, hoping to seal a place in the Test 11, the kind of shot he played, he stepped out of the stepped out of the crease and was ready to launch, was quite unwarranted when your side is struggling with your top three gone, or couple of top two gone. I think that it was quite unwarranted. Some of the other shots were also very, very shoddy. Some days they come off, some days they don't. And when they don't come off, you have results like this, especially Yashasvi Jaiswal, who has sort of made a reputation for himself on being a batter who is high on shot making. And he went for a shot and was snapped up by Ajaz Patel. So I think overall, if you go to see, this was a day to forget. And I think there were warning signs for India, even in that first test match against Bangladesh at Chennai. But Ravindra Jadeja and Ravichandran Ashwin saved the day for India at that time. But it wasn't to be this time. All said and done, I think India lacked somebody who could hold an end. And they need to quickly take a call on what they need to do here, because you need somebody to hold and end up. It's all very well to be high risk, high reward in your approach. But I think in such conditions, like you saw today in Bengaluru, or you will get in, say, in Perth or in Adelaide during the day-night test match, it's going to be tough for India to continue with this high risk, high reward approach.
You're talking about high risk, high reward, and this is exactly how the baseball was also marketed. And it eventually became a joke because they did not adapt to conditions. And talking of conditions now, everyone here knew the conditions were more like what we see in New Zealand than in India. How do you explain India's decision to bat first and then even have the audacity to go with three spinners in such conditions? Clearly, if you look at it, looks like this was a call that was taken before the rain, and they seemed too overconfident to change it even after the rain.
I think, yes, you're right about that. And I think that, and Captain Rohit Sharma has come out in the open and confirmed that he misread the conditions. And I think that's quite honest of Rohit to come out and say that. And I think they had the perfect opportunity Ashish, they had the perfect opportunity to knock the stuffing out of New Zealand, if I may use these words, because, like you said, New Zealand are coming after a shellacking in Sri Lanka. They are down in confidence. They've had a change in their Test captaincy. Kane Williamson was not around. You couldn't have asked for a better opportunity for an Indian Test side to knock the opposition out of the contest. But instead, what happened was, like you said, I think it was pre-decided, predetermined, and like you said, the team selection was also pre-decided. They chose the right team considering the decision they took, but I think that the conditions were not conducive for that particular approach. And the batting, like I keep thinking about it, some of the shot making was atrocious. I think they'll need to really have a hard look at themselves, considering that, like I keep saying, we've got. Forget the World Test Championship final. I think a lot of talk is going around the World Test Championship final. Think about the present. Today, India had a forgettable day.
Correct.
Forget about making it to Lords in June 2025. They have a lot of tough cricket to be played in the next coming months.
Absolutely. India did have a forgettable day, and will this now cost them all the hard work that they've done for the past couple of years? Atul Wassan joining us right now. Atul, we've won in Australia. Chandresh was talking about the conditions here. We've, of course, had the IPL for a long time now. We have also been doing reasonably well in Sena countries. To be fair, mostly it's because of our bowlers now, but our batters, even today, they look like absolute sitting ducks when the ball starts swinging. Speaking of ducks, we had 5 of them today. How do you explain this? We've come so far, Indian cricket has come so far, but still it's the same old problem. It's the swinging ball that does the damage.
Can you imagine? And this is India. This is not like Perth or Wellington or, Southampton. So I full marks to New Zealand. But I think to bat first after so much rain was, I think, iffy choice. And basically, they play so much cricket that you have to go with whatever the consensus is. But this is something called the black swan. It will not happen, very many times, but it happens, and it has happened before to best of the teams. But this was just they got caught in a brain fade situation. Not saying that, but we have done reasonably well. But these odd aberrations, even Sri Lanka, New Zealand team went there and got beaten there convincingly, and then they come here. And with these, it was no Bolt and no somebody who, like Richard Hadley came a long time ago and had the same kind of effect. But this kind of thing, I would have never imagined in my worst nightmare. But it's happened now, and how do you, claw your way back from here will set the tone for series, because they have to go to Australia. So this kind of, mental scarring, we didn't need it.
Absolutely. Also, Atul, a quick follow-up question on that. Do you think teams do tend to get carried away? Because we saw how England also, when initially Bazball was spoken about, it was because of the style of cricket that they were playing. They were adapting themselves to different situations, and they were trying to do something different. But then it almost became a trend wherein even in the worst of situations, they tried playing the same shots, and then it started looking silly. Now it's something similar that's happening with the Indian team now. Everyone's talking about how they're aggressive, how they're playing positive cricket, but that doesn't always work out. Sometimes you also need to respect the conditions and also the bowlers, and really need to play it out and then show your aggressive side. Do you think Team India also right now is getting carried away?
Yes, I think so. It is a hangover of how they beat, Bangladesh in Kanpur in day and a half, and I thought that they can hit their way out of trouble. But New Zealand is a much organized side. So this kind of thing, once it comes back and bites you, then you have to really question, because this is kind of a philosophy which takes grip over a period of time. Baseball game, England actually won more than they lost, but eventually it costed them a few matches. But I think this old-fashioned dirty batting in Test match cricket is not for everybody, because they think that this is how you have to play and express yourself. So most of the players who are big, they think they can hit out. But then suddenly so much collective collapse. I thought somebody would actually take their hand up and maybe just bat dirty. The dirty batting in Test match, just bat out a session like Cheteshwar Pujara did. And I think all these players are such good hitters in IPL and all franchise cricket that it is maybe below their, kind of their own esteem, that how can I just, let the bowler get on top of me, and they forgot that it was a Test cricket. They had 5 days to play, and this is what happens.
Absolutely. Chandresh, Atul is talking about brain fade moment here. Do you think something similar was seen given the batting order that we were looking at? Because number three, we saw Virat Kohli walking out when ideally every Indian cricket fan, no matter how much we admire Virat Kohli, we know that he's not the right batsman to come out in that condition. And what's more shocking is that we already had KL Rahul, who's done reasonably well abroad, sitting in the dugout. We should have sent him at number three, trying to negate the conditions played out, but instead we just stuck to the original plan.
KL Rahul has been an opener and he knows Chinnaswamy better than most. Uh, but I think the skipper came out today at the end of the day in the press conference and spoke about the fact that Virat Kohli himself volunteered to go in at number three. Uh, I think once India took the call to move on from Cheteshwar Pujara and Ajinkya Rahane, this was going to happen for a while because like Atul said wonderfully about Cheteshwar Pujara and batting dirty. You lack that kind of a batter in the lineup. You've taken a call. Now you need to stick to that call. Even Anil Kumble made that comment about Cheteshwar Pujara on broadcast today. So I think that once you've made that call to stick to move on from Cheteshwar Pujara and Ajinkya Rahane, you need to look for a replacement. Like when Rahul Dravid retired, we had Cheteshwar Pujara coming in, who was like almost like a like for like, who could bat days and days and hours and hours. You don't have that kind of a batter in this lineup. And like you keep saying, Ashish, respecting the
Correct.
conditions, you see what happened to England in the previous test match. They scored 823. In this test match, the spin caught them in a bind in Multan. So it's about respecting the conditions, and you need to have that kind of approach with the batting. Sometimes it comes off because you've got guys like, in the past we've had people like Sehwag and others who have scored runs at a breakneck speed to break the logjam. But sometimes you probably need the Pujara kind of batter in the lineup. I'm not saying you need to press the panic button, but that's the kind of batter that India needed today to bat out the conditions. And just like Atul said beautifully, bat dirty. It sounds quite bad, but it is actually about batting dirty. And like Atul said, it's about batting for 5 days, and in this case, batting for 4 days. There are two innings to be played, and there's a lot of time. 90 overs in a day is a lot of time.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds dirty, but of course, it's saved India's face a lot of times in the past as well. And every Indian cricket fan who's watched test matches over the last few years knows that even the Australia series that we won down under, even that was because of this dirty, slow, hard batting that actually did the trick as well for India. Now, Atul, you were talking a lot about, and also Chandresh was talking a lot about Pujara and Rahane. We all know the Border Gavaskar Trophy this time. It's going to be a tough contest. Australia is really keen on turning the tables. And given our middle order right now, which is just not settled, it is immature. It still needs a lot of, a lot of practice as well. Should veterans like Pujara or Rahane be kept around to offer some sort of a stability? Because we've seen on multiple occasions, as soon as the top order fails, we just cannot rely on our middle order. Earlier, we were used to getting, getting out of such situations because of Pujara and Rahane and batters such as those. But now we just don't have such reliable batters. Do you think we should keep Pujara and Rahane around for the Border Gavaskar Trophy?
No, not really. I think we have the batters, but they have to be told that what is the job. And imagine they've played so much cricket. They just have to see the situation. Virat Kohli also has been playing Test cricket and he's been chasing the record. But imagine since 2022, he's only got 300. And at the same time, Joe Root has got 18. So you can imagine the kind of conviction maybe Joe Root is showing, and he can also bat dirty, but he can also switch the next gear. I think the problem is that. Maybe this is good for India before Australia, because this kind of a performance just gives you a wake-up call, because we are only focusing about who's going to be the fast bowler, who's going to be the bowlers, but nobody's talking about Indian batting also in Australia, and you're right. But we have to identify players like that. But these days, if you players also, get into the test zone, they know that they're going to lose out financially. Because, if they play like this, they will be branded. Because since, Hashim Amla kind of players never used to get a good contract, because, imagine Cheteshwar Pujara, they're the best players and the toughest format. But in T20 cricket, which is where the money is there, they're not rated. So the players, the younger players, to find that kind of player, a slot, and develop a player like that, very difficult in these times, because that player is also going to aspire to play, the riches.
Right. Atul, you're talking a lot about how a lot of Indian players play multiple formats. Do you think that also is harming Indian cricket right now? Because you're talking about Joe Root. We all know how Joe Root made that tough decision of focusing majorly on Test cricket, and that's paying dividends right now, not just for him, but also English cricket. We've seen how in the past as well, players like Pujara and Rahane have also focused on a single format, and it's done wonders for them. Do you think that is what India is lacking right now? Because Test matches, you don't really can bank on players who are in that 50-50 mindset. They don't know whether to attack, they don't know whether to defend. And that's what seems to be the
Yeah.
problem with Indian batters now.
So we'll need another program to discuss it, because this is such a big problem. Because this is the society we live in, low hanging fruit. Even the players who actually not play for India even, and they're big stars, they get the money. So people also cherish them, and they become celebrities. And in contrast, if you just play Test cricket, financially it's not rewarding. The board has to find a way to identify players and actually support them, because they should be compensated. But what if you just leave it to the players? He's gonna just try and hit and play like T20 because he's gonna get a contract. So I think the respect for Test cricket is going down, and especially to get players like that is very difficult. And unless and old world people like me are only few who actually respect Test cricketers, because T20, and you're right. I mean, too many players play across the formats. I made a point which everybody got upset, that 1.4 billion people, and we had 8 players playing all the formats, 3 formats at one point. And this is impossible. How can you do that?
Correct.
And in contrast, New Zealand has got a population of Janakpur in Delhi, and they only had 4 people playing across the format. So something is wrong somewhere.
Absolutely. Atul, a very interesting point that you made there. And also, it's more baffling given the bench strength that we have right now. It's not like we don't have players right now. We have multiple players who are specialized in multiple formats, but for some reason, we seem to be sticking on to some players and making them play all the formats. And at the end of the day, it looks like it is spoiling their game as well. Chandresh, before we started this conversation, you were also talking about the Border Gavaskar Trophy, the WTC final as well. How much do you think this is going to dent India's chances? Because I know the WTC final is still far away, because again, a lot of focus is on WTC. And do you think this is also going to put a lot of extra pressure on the Indian cricket team down under? Because earlier, if they had clean swept this particular series, they would have played Border Gavaskar Trophy with a lot more freedom. But now they are going to win. They are going to have to win a certain number of games, and this is going to put more pressure down under, where they'll already be under a lot of pressure.
It's already started. And I think that if you look at the Australian media, they've already started talking about it. The English media started talking about India's batting today. And in a way, it is a good thing that this has happened today rather than in Australia. But also remember that you spoke about players across the formats. Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Ravindra Jadeja, Ravichandran Ashwin, KL Rahul, Jasprit Bumrah, they're not playing the shortest format that regularly India doesn't play any ODI cricket at all. So in that sense, India is very lucky that we had a different T20 team playing against Bangladesh, and the test squad is completely different. And then in South Africa also, they will have a T20 series with Surya Kumar Yadav leading a different side. In a way, this side is settled in the sense that you've got a lot of players who are now focused on playing test cricket, especially Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. So that is a good thing. Looking ahead, the good thing for India is that an India A team will also be touring Australia before the Test series in Australia. They'll be playing 2 matches against Australia A, and then they'll play a match against the Indian Test side, an intra-squad match. So the Indian team will have some kind of a build-up especially for the guys who are going to be playing the Test series in Australia. So all those things put together, I think that's a good build-up for India. Considering we don't usually get such opportunities nowadays with such packed schedules. I think one name that they need to seriously consider to be part of the larger squad is Abhimanyu Ishwaran, not because for anything, but just because he's been in consistent form. In the last 5 first-class matches, he scored 100.
Correct.
In every first-class match. And he bats time. And I think that will be a very important factor, considering that there are reports that Rohit Sharma may not be available for the first or the second test match in Australia. So
Absolutely.
I think we have all the goods and we have all the resources available. I think we need to just get it right and just sort of temper the approach the high risk, high reward, uh, uh, I don't quite think
Absolutely.
will always work.
Atul, before we wrap now, I need to ask you about the WTC finals now, because a lot of focus is on that. And we all know how we lost the last two finals of the World Test Championship. We know the conditions that cost us the game. And just an example of why we lost is exactly what we saw today. And we don't seem to have learnt any lessons. Swinging ball, our batters collapsing. In case we make it to another WTC final, I think we already know what's going to happen.
Is it for me?
Questions for me?
Yes, Atul, that's for you.
No, I was very disappointed because, build-up was so good and we had a really good test team also. But the way we lost the two finals was very painful because the Indian team is much better than that. So I think this periodical, this odd, just collective failure bothers me, where they've got the best of the psychologists, they've got the best of the team management, the full support staff. But imagine these players have played for years and years, and suddenly at such a big stage, there's something that is going wrong, which has to be curtailed. And Chandresh has got mentioned. Ishwan is there. Shubman Gill is somebody I'm hoping that he will be the guy in Australia for us. But just to expect somebody to change their spots just for a series is impossible, because these players always have come on top because of their reputation. They just feel that they can blast their way out. But at times in Test cricket, just to actually change gears and just play ugly cricket also, which people do not actually like these days, is the key. But who's going to be able to do that? That is the question.
All right, gentlemen, I'm being told we're running short of time right now. And again, Indian cricket fans will be hoping that this is just another bad day at the office for Indian team. And of course, the team bounces back and makes it to the final and gets that red ball trophy home finally, something that Indian fans have been waiting for a long time. Atul Wassan, Chandresh Narayanan, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast for this discussion about India's game. India's probably one of the worst days that we've seen. Indian Test team, in fact, underperforming, 46 runs all out, the lowest ever total in history on home soil. Indian team and Indian fans deserve a lot more better. Lots more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned.